President Biden has attempted to put his re-election campaign back on track with a defiant rally in the US state of Michigan. He came out on stage in Detroit to chants of "Don't you quit." Mr. Biden told the crowd that he was the only politician to have beaten Donald Trump and promised to do it again in November. A growing number of Democrats have called on the president to step aside from the contest after his disastrous debate performance last month. Our correspondent, Neda Tawfik, was at the rally.
Feeding off the energy of his supporters, Joe Biden delivered a gaffe-free and forceful defense for his candidacy. Despite continued panic about his ability to beat Donald Trump, he insisted that he was going to win in November.
I'm the nominee. I'm the nominee of this party because 14 million Democrats like you voted for me in the primaries. You made me the nominee, no one else, not the press, not the pundits, not the insiders, not donors. You, the voters, you decided. No one else, and I'm not going anywhere.
He laid out his vision for a second term, restoring abortion rights, strengthening social programs, and fighting for working Americans. In contrast, he said Trump would be a threat to democracy.
Trump is even more dangerous now. Trump said if he wins, he'll be a dictator on day one. He means it, folks. We're not going to let that happen. Over my dead body will happen.
After a bruising few weeks, this was the boost his campaign needed.
The Biden campaign may be betting that these rallies and the optics of cheering crowds of supporters can help him outlast the calls to step aside. But some Democrats fear that if he stays in the race, it's not just a choice between him and Trump. Some voters may sit out the election entirely.
That could be disastrous in key battleground states such as here in Michigan. Tom Moran, a 69-year-old bus driver and a lifelong Democrat, doesn't see how Biden can win.
The party, the people that can influence him, his family, anyone, they need to let him know if he doesn't step aside, I believe he'll lose in a landslide and he'll drag the other candidates down. Alyssa Slotkin for Senate, she doesn't have a prayer if he's at the top of the ticket in Michigan. And it would be a shame to end his career that way.
Joe Biden has made clear he isn't going anywhere, but his stamina and endurance will continue to be under a microscope for as long as he's in the race. Neda Tawfik, BBC News, Detroit, Michigan.
Well, Daniel Lippman is a correspondent for Politico, and he told me more about the growing pressure on President Biden.
Well, this was on a Friday rally, and many fewer Americans watched this fiery performance in Detroit than watched the debate a few weeks ago. There was 50 million plus Americans. I think there was 24 million Americans who watched his shaky news conference on Thursday night, where he called Vice President Harris Vice President Trump, the same day that he had said he had mixed up Zelensky and Putin's name when he was introducing Zelensky at the NATO summit. And so the calls for Democrats for Biden to quit will only continue, but he has the benefit of the calendar in terms of next week is the Republican convention. And so the spotlight will be on Trump in Milwaukee and not on Biden as much.
It's also been revealed that, reports that a radio interview that took place soon after the debate with Mr. Trump, in which the questions were provided to the radio presenter. I mean, the optics of this is not very good, is it, for the Biden team?
It's not at all. And it seems like the campaign made their own goal because they should have if they were doing that previously after the debate, they should have stopped that practice immediately because they were trying to show that he can do these interviews, he can answer tough questions. But remember that press conference he gave on Thursday night, he hadn't given a solo press conference since November. And so the White House press corps has felt like he's been closed off. And there's a lot of anger at the inner circle aides around Biden, who feel like, Democrats feel like they have kept him basically locked up in the White House. And so kind of disguising Biden's true condition. And so that's why he was able to waltz through the Democratic primary earlier this year.
I mean, this is all very much a gift for Donald Trump. Their next big date is, I think, the convention in around 3 days' time. What about the Biden camp, the Democrats? How long have they got to make a decision?
So even Biden's one of his top allies, Jim Clyburn, congressman from South Carolina, who helped save Biden's campaign in 2020 after it had lost Iowa and New Hampshire, and then they won the key state of South Carolina. He has said, "Oh well, Biden might change his mind, and I'll support him if he changes his mind." And so he does. The Democratic convention is in mid to late August in Chicago, and so he theoretically has until then to change his mind. I think they're going to look at polling data. The Biden campaign is already polling to see if Harris would do better at the top of the ticket. But I think the critical thing is if many more Democrats come out against Biden, then that may tip his hand. And also the money issue, $90 million by big donors into a super PAC supporting Biden has been put on hold until as long as Biden is the nominee. And so that, these campaigns run on money. And so if the money starts to dry up, then the writing's on the wall.